right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. I love this time of year. Well, I don't love that summer's ending. I really like the warm weather, but when the fall does come, we get to take trips to Idaho, out into the field to check out songbirds and raptors on their migration south. So we're heading to Boise State University's Intermountain Bird Observatory to learn all about their raptor migration project. So at Lucky Peak Research Station, they are capturing, banding, measuring, and weighing the birds of prey that are migrating south for the winter. And to tell us all about it, we are going to head into the field now with Heidi Carlisle. Let's bring her in right now. Hey, Heidi, how are we doing today?
Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. This is our fourth trip. We've been capturing songbirds earlier in the day. We had a little rough go with the Raptors and the connectivity yesterday.
Just a little.
But I think you found a great workaround. And so we're going to have a great time learning about the project and maybe get to see some of those feathered friends today.
Yeah, so I'm up here at our Lucky Peak station. You can see the forest around me. We're at the tip of a ridge that is kind of a point of the Rocky Mountains. So the Rocky Mountains are reaching all the way up into Alaska and Canada and funneling down to us here in Idaho. So this little point funnels a lot of songbirds, hawks, and owls during their migration as they're moving from the north to the south. So today, this afternoon, we're working on studying the migrating raptors, and we actually still have songbird banding going on too. So you guys might get a bonus songbird here while we're waiting to see some raptors. But I can tell you guys a little bit about our raptor banding program, and our Raptor Trapper caught 2 raptors. She has them off in the trapping blind, so when she's done putting a band on their legs, she's going to send them up to us here so we'll get to see them. Normally, we get to go into the blind, but the reception is really bad today, so we're hanging out in camp, and then we'll get to see the raptors up really, really close once she's done banding them. But while we wait, I figured I would tell you guys a little bit about their migration. So we're studying raptors here, and like I said, they're moving from the north to the south. A lot of the raptors here are heading south either to overwinter here in Idaho, or they may be heading down to California or Mexico for the winter. 2 species that we catch a lot of are Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks. And we know, based on our research and getting reports of these little bands on their legs, a lot of them head to western Mexico. So we get a lot of good information about the movement of these birds. So we're catching these birds to put bands on their legs. So these are just little aluminum bands. And maybe I'll show you guys a songbird band so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But we put little aluminum bands around their legs, and the bands have a 9-digit number so that we're able to identify that bird. Thanks, Lucian. So here's a little band. So this is a band for a sparrow. You can imagine the hawk bands are much bigger than this, but you can see maybe they have a little 9-digit number stamped into them. And that's like a phone number or a social security number. So that allows us to uniquely identify that individual bird and know exactly when it was banded and where and who banded it. So we're putting bands on the raptor's legs. We're also measuring them and weighing them and doing some assessment of their health. So looking at their body condition to see how they're doing on their migration. This gives us a lot of good information about raptor populations. And what we're looking for is monitoring a lot of the common species to make sure they stay common. So since we do this every single year, we're counting the hawks that are flying past, we're banding them as they pass through our station, we're able to get a sense for population ups and downs, including we are looking at their age and their sex. So we can tell, for example, if we don't catch many young birds in a given year, that gives us an idea that maybe their reproduction wasn't that great that season. So that lets us monitor populations over time and make sure that overall the trend isn't declining. If we see numbers changing, then as scientists, we can work together to figure out why that might be changing and then identify what we can do about it. Ooh, okay, so I just got a message that our other raptor bander, Jeremiah, is on his way. So he's bringing the raptor for you guys to get to see. So, okay, so we're putting bands on their legs, we're measuring them. And during fall migration, we get hundreds and hundreds of raptors passing this station every day. So yesterday, they actually had a really good day. They had more than 500 raptors fly over. We don't usually catch that many, so we'll often catch 20 or 30 raptors on a really good day during migration. Oh, and I guess I could talk a little bit about how we catch them, right, Joe? So the way we catch them is our hawk trappers sit inside a blind. So people might use blinds to sit at the edge of a lake and look for birds coming in, or if they're hunting, they might hide in a blind so that an animal can't see them. So we do the same thing with our raptor trapping. We sit inside this tiny little wooden building, and outside of the blind, we have a series of different traps. So different nets that allow us to catch the raptors. And the way we get the raptors to come into the traps is using lure birds. So these pigeons and sparrows wear a little kind of leather bulletproof vest, so they're protected. Their body is surrounded by this thick layer of leather, and they sit on that harness in the middle of all the nets. So as the raptor is flying past, the pigeon or the sparrow sees that raptor, they flap because they're scared. They see a predator, right? And that flapping motion attracts the raptor. So the raptor swoops in, and we have control of these lines that control the pigeon and the sparrow, but also the traps. So as the raptor gets close to our little lure bird, we can pull a string to trigger the trap, or we might have a net set up that the raptor doesn't see, and it might fly into that net on its way to catch that lure bird. So the raptor thinks it's about to get a nice snack, but it gets caught instead by us. So once we catch it, we take it out of the trap, we bring it back into the blind, and we start taking all those different measurements. So we measure their wing length, which is sort of like when you go to the doctor's office and they measure how tall you are. It gives us a good idea of their body size. And then we measure their leg size. So, and I can show you how we measure their leg. In raptors, females are bigger than males, so they wear a bigger band size. So once we measure the bird, we can determine if it's a male or a female, and then we can measure their leg to decide what band size to put on them. So this is a tool that we call a leg gauge that lets us pick what size band to put on the bird. So today, I heard from our trapper that we caught a Cooper's hawk. So if it's a female, she'll wear a size 5 band, which is about the size of my pinky finger. If it's a male, he'll wear a size, oh, this is hard because it's backwards. He'll wear a size 4 band, which is down here. And then we also catch much smaller hawks. So sharp-shinned hawks, they'll wear a size 2 like this for a male, or one of these 3 bands for a female. So I can show you a little size 2 band. Sharp-shinned hawks are about the same size as American robin or a dove, so they're actually quite small raptors. So here's the band size for a little male sharp-shinned hawk. We also measure the birds. So like I said, we're measuring their wing. We use this ruler called a wing rule, and you can see it has that little shelf on the top. So kind of like when you measure how tall you are, and you might put your hand on top of your head or like a book to get a really precise measurement of exactly how tall you are. This little wing ruler has that ledge built in, so we can get a really good measurement of that raptor's wing. This is a wing rule for our songbird banding, so you can tell it's very tiny. So for our raptors, we use really big ones. For golden eagles, we have a wing ruler that's about as long as my arm because they have a really wide, large wingspan. So let's see. Oh, nice timing. So we have our raptors. I'm going to walk over here, and 2 of our folks will be able to hold this raptor and show you guys. So I'm going to turn my camera around and show you guys these hawks. So we carry them in cans. So I'll just show you this one right here. We carry them in cans or tubes to hold them so that they can't get away. So you can see this raptor's tail sticking out right here. And then when we're ready to look at him, we'll take him out of this can to show you. And then our other scientist, Lucian, over here, is going to be pulling out our other raptors. So we'll take a look at our Cooper's hawk first, and then we'll look at the smaller sharp-shinned hawk. And she is a big female. So we're always, when we're handling these raptors, you'll see Lucian's not wearing gloves, which seems a little surprising, but we need to have the dexterity to be able to feel that we're safely holding the bird. If we were wearing gloves that were thick enough to protect us from its feet, we wouldn't be able to tell whether we were squeezing too tight on that bird's legs. So instead, we just handle them very carefully so that we can pull their legs out and control those large talons. So Lucian is going to slide this bird out of the can, and you can see she already has a band on her leg. Our Raptor Trapper, Abby, already put the band on. And you can see those really long talons. So for raptors, especially these hawks called accipiters, they hunt using their feet. So the main body part we're concerned about with these raptors is their feet. We don't want them to grab us with their feet. Their beaks are kind of sharp for tearing meat once they catch their prey, but not so sharp that we're overly concerned. Here's this big lady Cooper's hawk. Cool. Okay. So we also keep them in the can because it helps them stay calm. So now that she's out of the can, she sees us and she's like, wait a minute. So you heard that quick little squawk of surprise when we took her out of the can. But Cooper's hawks are a bird hunting raptor. She's an adult, so she has this beautiful orange eye. I might guess, I haven't looked at her feathers, but I might guess that she is a younger female. Let's see. Oh yeah, actually, she's older. So I can see on her back she has a mix of 1-year-old, like adult feathers that she's been wearing for a year, and then some new adult feathers that she just grew. So we actually know that she is after 2nd year, so more than 2 years old. As accipiters get older, their eyes get darker and darker. So as she gets older, her eye will actually turn really dark, kind of cherry red. Right now it's kind of orangey. Females tend to have a little bit more orangey eyes. A little bit more orangey eyes than males. So, like I said, females are bigger. So female Cooper's hawks are quite large. They have these nice talons, which are adapted for grabbing songbirds. So they use those long, long claws to actually grab songbirds. And the way they kill them is by just squeezing them with those sharp, sharp talons. So the other thing I'll show you about this Cooper's hawk is she has this nice squared off head. It gives her kind of a nice hairdo. And that's one way we can identify, along with her size, that she's a Cooper's hawk, is that nice squared head with that little cap. So yeah, anything else to show off, Lucian, or do you want to let her go and pull out the sharp-shinned? Adult accipiters. Oh yeah, I can show off her tail. So adult accipiters have kind of this blue-gray back, and then along with that orange eye, she kind of has a rusty orange chest. So her coloration tells us how old she is. The little sharp-shinned we have is a young bird, so you guys will get to see the coloration of a young accipiter too. So, do you want to give her a toss, Lucian? I think right here is pretty. Yeah. I want to send her to the songbirds. Okay. So we carried this Cooper's hawk down to our songbird banding station, and since they eat our little songbirds, we want to send her away from our other study species. Accipiters are a forest living hawk, so they're really good at flying through trees. So when we release her, we might get to see her kind of do some cool maneuvers as she flies off. All right, ready? There we go. Give us a nice little squeak as she flew off.
Oh,
okay.
That was great, Heidi. Beautiful. And those eyes are incredible.
Oh, yeah, those orange eyes are really cool. So you'll get to take a look at our little sharp-shinned hawk next. And yeah, release time 11:45. So we record when we release each raptor. So you guys will get to see this. I'm guessing this is a male sharp-shinned hawk. He's based on what size can he's in. So one of our little tiny guys. So Cooper's hawks are eating bigger birds like doves and quail, but they can catch songbirds as well. Sharp-shinned hawks are definitely songbird specialists. So they're tiny. They have a small turning radius, so they're really maneuverable. They can zigzag through trees and shrubs to catch those little tiny songbirds. And this guy's a young one, so he was just born this summer. And he doesn't have that orangey chest. He has those vertical streaks on his chest. And he has a really brown back, so you guys can see that nice rusty brown color. That's how we knew that adult female was after second year. She didn't have any leftover baby feathers on her body. And you can also see this guy's nice rounded wings. So that short little round paddle-shaped wing makes him super maneuverable. So like I said, he can really zigzag through the trees, chasing after little sparrows and finches to try to eat. So it's funny working at a migration station like this where we're studying everything, because the songbirds are here because of the habitat and the food, and the hawks are here because of the food too. Their food just happens to be the little songbirds that we study. Sharp-shinned hawks have a lot more rounded head than the Cooper's hawk, so you can see his little tiny rounded head. And I always say that Coops look cranky and Sharp-shinneds look surprised. So you can see Sharp-shinned hawks have pretty big eyes proportionately for their head, and it gives them that kind of shocked, kind of deer in the headlights, scared look. So especially little male Sharpies always look kind of funny. There you go. He's giving you guys a good show with his little surprised bug eyes there. You can see his little hooked beak, so I'll try to show you guys. Their beak isn't too sharp, but you can see that nice little hook. So really good for tearing up his prey once he catches it. But just like that Cooper's hawk, he's using his talons to grab his prey and then basically squeeze, and kind of stab it until it's dead, basically. So you can see how those talons are really, really sharp and long and well adapted. Accipiters, so sharp-shinneds and Cooper's hawks and also goshawks, have these really long toes as well. So this long center toe especially can wrap around that whole body of the songbird. So when he's trying to grab it and kill it, he has those nice tools. Ooh, he has lice. Beautiful. So one of the things we record on our raptors is if they have parasites. That can give us a sense of their health. Young raptors sometimes have lice because they're crammed in a nest together with all their siblings all summer. So it's a lot easier to pass lice to each other in the nest. So we'll record that because that gives us a good idea of his kind of overall health. So what else can I show you guys? Like I said, his little beak is pretty sharp. Falcons, when we catch them, their feet are sort of powerful, sort of sharp. They kind of hurt, but their beaks are extra sharp. So a beak on a falcon would have the same hook that this guy has on the front, but then it would actually have a second little tooth farther back on the bill. And falcons, instead of grabbing and squeezing their prey like the sharp-shinned would do with his talons, falcons tend to kind of punch their prey and then actually use their beak to do a big bite on the back of their neck and kill their prey that way. So that's why when we're handling these guys, we're worried about their feet. When we're handling falcons, we're worried about their beaks biting us. And it can kind of hurt. Okay, so I think this guy's ready to go. He's got a band on his leg. If somebody finds him, either a citizen finds him like injured or hurt, then somebody can turn in that band number. Or if another scientist catches this bird, they can also turn in that band number and report to us. So we'll learn a little bit more about where this guy is going. So, all right, should we walk over and launch him? And then, oh, just as a bonus, we also caught a songbird over here. So I'll, once we release this sharp-shinned, I'll show you guys a songbird while you ask questions, if that works for you. Okay, we're ready. Go, little guy. Oh, off down into the forest. Cool. So just where an accipiter should go, off into the trees. And that was 11:51. Awesome, thanks. Okay, so let's go check out a little songbird. So this is a songbird that sharp-shinned hawk would probably love to eat. Kinglet, plug your ears. So Alexis here is banding a little tiny ruby-crowned kinglet. So she's using these pliers to close the band carefully around that bird's leg. And you can see the pliers have a little hole in them so that we can close around the band without touching that bird's leg. So if you guys want, I'll just leave the camera forward facing so you guys can watch Alexis band a songbird while you guys ask questions.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I'll keep it nice and full screen on you guys as well. We're getting a little bit of everything today, Heidi.
Yeah, there you go. Bonus.
All right, perfect. Well, if you're tuning in via YouTube, use that chat sidebar and you can put in a few questions there. But let's grab some of our camera classrooms and see what kind of questions they have for us. So we're going to go to Mr. Elsa's class first. Let us bring them in front and center. Here we go. How we doing, crew?
Good. I have a question. What happens if the birds attack you while you're banding?
So we're holding them really carefully, so they usually don't get us. But sometimes we do get scratched, so we keep hand sanitizer on hand and Neosporin just in case. But we're really careful because, you know, we don't want to get hurt. Obviously, our priority is not hurting the birds, but we don't want to get hurt either. So it does take a lot of training and handling. And we practice and introduce people to banding really slowly to make sure that they learn how to be careful so that nobody gets hurt. But yeah, good question.
Okay.
I have definitely had a Cooper's hawk grab my hand before, and it hurts. Wear a Band-Aid for a while after that.
How long does it take for you to catch a bird?
Oh, sorry, I missed your question. Can you say that again?
How long does it usually take before a bird comes?
Oh, well, so yesterday, actually, it was probably good we lost reception with the Raptor group because Abby spent all day in the blind. So from like breakfast time until dinner time, and she didn't catch any hawks. But today the wind is better. She's already caught, I think, 3 or 4. So sometimes you can catch 3 birds in 3 minutes, and other times you might catch no birds in 7 hours. So sometimes it takes a lot of patience to be a hawk trapper, especially.
Heidi, maybe before we jump to another classroom, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the process for catching the songbirds.
Yeah, so for the songbirds, it's kind of similar. So we have nets set up, and we set them up in places where we think the songbirds will fly through. But we don't have lure birds for the songbirds. So instead, we use the habitat to lure them. So you guys can see these nice green shrubs here. Those are cherry shrubs. So they're full of insects and full of fruit. And so we put the nets in places where we think the songbirds are going to come to eat and where they might come for shelter. So with songbirds, we're not exactly luring them. We're just hoping that they fly past where we put the nets. So kind of similar to raptors, but also with songbirds, we're not so worried about getting bit or clawed.
All
and
right.
yeah, so Alexis just weighed this little kinglet, so maybe I'll zoom in so you guys can see this little kinglet's face.
Very cool. I heard there was a lot of them this morning.
Yeah, they are moving through in big numbers, so it's definitely peak kinglet migration. There we go. Cool. All right.
All right. Let's grab another camera classroom here. Let's go to Hagersville. We've got some 5-6s with Miss Marshall. Let's get them in front and center. Let's give them a sec. I see they haven't turned their camera on yet. Miss Marshall's 5-6s. If you,
yeah, sure.
There we go. Here they come. Let me bring them in. Perfect.
Around how many birds do you think you caught?
Well, good question. So in a day, we usually catch, anywhere from 10 to 30 raptors. And we're trying to trap them all day. So like I said, from around breakfast time to dinner time. For the season, we usually band around 500 or more raptors every fall.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's
we have a couple more questions.
Go for
Okay.
it.
Do you do any other bird species?
Yeah, so at this station, it's pretty cool. We have a crew of about 12 scientists who live up here full time. I'm just going to turn my camera around since we don't have any other birds. So we have a crew of around 12 scientists, and they live here all fall, so for about 3 months, and you can see their tents are spread up on this hillside behind me. And we study songbirds in the morning, we do hawks all day, and then we do owls at night. So pretty much at Lucky Peak, anytime you're up here, somebody's awake doing some kind of research.
And just a couple more. Okay, thank you. Why are they called raptors?
Why are they called raptors? Well, it's a name for the whole group of birds. So another name could be birds of prey. And raptorial is a word that kind of describes the fact that they're predators. So most raptors are predators and meat eaters. Some, like vultures, might eat dead things, but they're still eating meat. So.
Okay. And just one more. Thank you.
What's the pain scale out of 10? Like if the bird scratches you when you're trying to put the band on?
The pain scale out of 10 when if a raptor gets you. So, I'll make fun of my husband. So he's also a raptor bander. And one time he had a red-tailed hawk that clawed his wrist, and it hit a nerve, and he almost passed out. So it does hurt a lot. But I would say, so I've had a baby, and that hurts way more than getting caught by a raptor. So if you've ever been scratched by a cat or something like that, that's usually what raptor injury entails, is maybe just a scratch, or like if you fall off your bike and skin your knee. So yeah, not too bad, but sometimes it could get pretty serious.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump to another crew here. We've got Mr. Botch's crew joining us in Toronto. Looks like some grade 4-5 students. Let's bring them front and center.
Hello.
Hey, Toronto.
Hello.
What age would you happen to be in the study of birds? Like, how old do you have to be?
So I have a couple volunteers who started volunteering up here when they were about 14. So not very old, but you have to be very responsible and dedicated first. So my volunteer who started when he was 14, he actually started coming to the station when he was in 4th grade, and he was begging every year, am I old enough? Am I old enough? Am I old enough? And then finally he was old enough. So now he works on our Songbird project.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And we have a question from Miss Callie next.
Can I be next?
Yep, Miss Callie, go ahead.
Are the bands harmful to the birds in any way, or is it when you trap them, is it like harmful to them?
Good question. So we never want to harm the birds we're studying, right? Because we're a bunch of animal lovers up here. And so we've made really good, we take really good care to make sure we're not hurting the birds. So when we're handling them, everything we're doing takes a lot of training to make sure that we are handling them safely. They probably are a little scared or nervous, right? So they've never seen a human before, and all of a sudden, like you heard that Cooper's hawk, she was pretty surprised when we took her out of the can. So they're probably a little bit stressed. And so to make up for that, we want to make sure that we're always collecting really good data so that, you know, even though she had a few stressful, maybe 10 minutes, it was worth it, right, for the conservation of her species. And we always let them go really quickly after we're done. The bands are super lightweight. So the bands are made out of aluminum, which is the same thing that pop cans or soda cans are made out of. And so our Songbird bands, when you put them on the scale, they actually don't even register. So they're lighter than 1/10 of a gram. So super lightweight. Good question.
One question from Simon.
What's the population of the Cooper hawk?
The population of Cooper's hawks. Actually don't know that off the top of my head. We band maybe about 200 a year, and a lot more than that fly over. And actually after this, I can send you guys a link. So we submit all of our data to a website where you can see how many hawks we've counted each day, and how many hawks we've counted over the years. So we've been doing this hawk watch for about 30 years, so we have a lot of data. So yeah, I'll share that link with you guys so you can see how many we get each season.
And one from Oliver.
Have you ever captured a peregrine falcon? Have you? Don't do that. Have you ever?
Yeah.
Have you ever captured a peregrine falcon?
We have caught peregrine falcons, so we catch a few each year. I think so far we've caught maybe 3 or 4 peregrine falcons. We also study another falcon species called a prairie falcon that lives in Idaho too. So yeah, the one that I've missed out on, about once a year we catch a golden eagle, and I've missed every single one of them, even though I've been working here since like 2008. So,
All right.
but yeah, peregrines are cool. They're the fastest land animal.
Very cool. Hopefully we get really lucky one year, and when we're connecting that we get a golden eagle. That'd be pretty wild.
I'd take that. That'd be fun.
All right. Mr. Elsa's crew, we got to bring them back in because we got to get a few more questions from them.
What would you say is the typical lifespan of a raptor?
Oh, good question. So a typical lifespan for a raptor, we see a lot of banded birds that come back 10, 15, or even 20 years after they were first banded. I think the record for bald eagle is somewhere around 30 or 35 years old. So raptors can live a long time. In captivity, there's a group in Boise called the Peregrine Fund that does a lot of bird conservation. And they have some Badalure eagles. They're a type of eagle that lives in Africa. And one of them was about 50 years old. So they can live a long time.
Wow. How big can the raptors get to be able to fly?
How big can they get? So a golden eagle's wingspan is like bigger than my arm span of both my arms spread out. So golden eagles are huge. We catch red-tailed hawks a lot, and their wingspan is about 5 or 6 feet. So about, if you're 5 feet tall, your wingspan is about 5 feet tall usually. So you can spread out your arms and imagine how big the wingspan is of a red-tailed hawk. Pretty big.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right? Probably bigger than your arms spread out.
Hello. Are there any birds that are there any raptors that hunt other birds, or like the prey and predator birds? If so, what are they?
Yeah, so some raptors can hunt each other. So actually that Cooper's hawk we caught could definitely easily hunt that sharp-shinned hawk if it wanted to. So they always have to watch out for each other. I've also seen, one time I saw a great horned owl that had killed a Swainson's hawk, which is another really big hawk. So yeah, they'll definitely take any opportunity, anything they can catch, they'll try to eat. So
Really?
there's a lot of competition out there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, let's squeeze in one more.
Thank you.
Do they fly at different heights, like the birds?
Mm. Yeah, good question. So our raptors are migrating during the day, and they're using rising air currents to migrate. So they're usually migrating pretty close to the ground, where the hot air is rising off the earth as the sun warms the earth. Songbirds fly really high, and they actually fly at night, hoping that they don't run into any raptors. So our little songbirds will fly at, multiple thousands of feet elevation. And that helps them because the air is calmer up high, so they don't have to fight really strong winds with their tiny little bodies.
All right. Heidi, a question here from YouTube. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that migrating birds are facing?
Yeah, so day to day, their challenge is to find a good weather day to migrate and make decisions on when to move. So a good example, today it's about 90 degrees here in Boise, and tomorrow it's going to drop down to close to 40 degrees at night. So we're probably seeing a lot of birds that are sensing that weather and deciding, ooh, okay, I got to get out of here before this big cold front comes. So day to day, they're facing things like that, finding food. And conservation-wise, a lot of raptors are facing declines. A a lot of raptors that eat rodents are impacted by rodenticide. So when people put out rat poison, those mice eat that poison, and then hawks and owls eat that as well. And so they can actually get really sick from that. So that's a big conservation issue with raptors that you can do something about. So you can actually avoid using rat poisons like that and help out birds of prey at the same time.
All right, perfect. So we've got another minute or two. So if our grade 5, 6s have another question, don't be shy to turn your camera back on. I can also grab one more from YouTube, and we can even grab one more from Mr. Elsa's class if they do have another one. I'll wait and see if I see someone pop up in front of the camera. And then just talking about our songbird friends, I know that lights can be an issue. So I know that's something that our students can do is keeping lights off at night. Would there be anything else you suggest to help the birds this time of year?
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. So especially during spring and fall migration, keeping outdoor lights off at night helps the birds, because songbirds are using the stars and their magnetic compass to navigate. And we know that city lights can actually mess up their navigation. So as they're trying to find their way south, they can get really confused by light. So turning that off is a really great way to help birds. Also, if you have pet cats, I always tell people, if you can, keep them inside. It's safer for cats too. Cats live longer if they're indoor pets, and it helps birds and other wildlife too, like reptiles and snakes. So reptiles and amphibians.
Perfect. All right, I see a movement in the 5, 6 room.
What's your favorite bird that you've caught?
Oh, everybody always asks me my favorite bird, and I don't have one. I like them all. I get to study everything from calliope hummingbirds, which are the smallest migrating bird in North America, all the way up to, hawks and eagles. So I like them all for different reasons. I think hummingbirds are maybe the most sassy. So when I'm banding them, I think maybe they're the most fun.
Okay.
We have
All
one
right. Yeah, go ahead.
How much food does a raptor eat a day?
How much food does a raptor eat a day? So they don't always eat every single day. If you're a predator, you have to get lucky and actually catch food every day for yourself. And that's one thing we actually record when we're banding these raptors. So they store their food in a crop, so this big bulge on their throat. And you can actually tell if they have eaten recently because they'll have this huge bulge. And so we record that. And on some days when the weather is bad, every hawk we catch has no food in its crop. And other days we'll find that they all have lots of food. So that gives us great information for how they're doing on migration. But yeah, they might go a few days sometimes without eating.
All right, great question. Okay, let's bring in our other crew.
Hi. What kind of education do you have to get a job?
Ooh, good question. So for my job that I have a bachelor's degree, and then I also have a master's degree. So I went to school for 4 years for my bachelor's degree, and then usually it's 2 or 3 years for a master's degree. A lot of scientists also go on to get PhDs too. At our station, so our scientists you guys got to see today, a lot of them have their bachelor's degree, and then they're waiting, so they're getting ready to go get their master's someday. So you can actually do a lot of really cool field technician jobs after finishing university and just getting your bachelor's degree. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we're going to squeeze one more in.
What is the rarest bird that you have caught or you want to catch or catch?
So as far as raptors, the rarest one I've been around for is a falcon called a gyrfalcon. So they're a falcon that nests in the Arctic tundra. They're gray or white colored. They're really beautiful birds. And one year there was a huge snowstorm, and we caught one here in Idaho. So that doesn't happen very often. It was a pretty cool bird. And it was a falcon, so it had a very sharp beak.
How do you spell that?
Gyr and then falcon.
GYR Falcon.
UIR. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Heidi, I've got to start off with a huge shout out to you and the team. Thank you so much for the last 2 days. The Songbird events were great. Getting to see some of the raptors, and I don't know, everything just worked out. The camera cleared up nicely when we were looking at Raptors. We got nice, good views. It was really cool to see the releases, and a bonus Songbird. Couldn't be much better. So a huge shout out to you and your team and the incredible work that you do, that dedication to be out there for months at a time and collecting all that amazing data. So important for conservation. And we'll have a little treat in a little while. We'll be able to share a little footage from the owl actions. We'll be able to share that with some of the classrooms who have joined us.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad it worked out, and thanks for joining me up here.
All right. Well, huge shout out to our classrooms who joined us today via YouTube, via camera spots. Great to see you as always. I still see Mr. Elsa's crew with us, so they can give a big shout out if they want. A big wave. Thank you. But thank you so much for being with us today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and we can't wait for more excuses to come out to Lucky Peak. Thanks so much, Heidi.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye. Bye.